Hello and welcome to the Irish Hunting Podcast, brought to you by myself, Brendan Maguire, and Anthony Grogan. We're going to be bringing you all the best hunting, fishing and field sports from around the country. Anthony Grogan, how are you getting on, lad?
Alright, Brenny, what's happening, buddy?
Oh, same old, lad. Any old crack during the week?
Loads.
Loads, yeah.
It feels like fucking... we had an eventful week, didn't we?
Yeah, an eventful week is right, yeah. I'm trying to think, when was the last podcast we done? Were we home from Clare? No, we were.
We were home from Clare,
We were home from Clare.
You were all dried off.
I was... Oh, yeah. From a swim.
You were a swim. And then, we hit it then. I went out Monday night.
Yeah.
Myself and Rob.
Mm-hmm.
And then me and you went out Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, that's right, yeah.
So plenty of action.
Plenty of action, a couple of deer in the bag, sure, it was all good, wasn't it?
All good, man, all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went out Monday night with Rob. We came, as I think we showed on the Facebook, there was a doe and a calf, and the calf was hobbling. So, yeah, no, well fed.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the calf rather than the
Fair play,
doe.
yeah.
So yeah, and then, look, it was still heavy enough when I was dragging it back down. It rolled back down the hill, so I had to go down, pick it up, and up the hill, hobbling. And we have this thing, myself and Rob, where whoever shoots has to carry, and we will not let. So all the way down, Rob said, "Do you want me to take a leg of that?" And I said, No.
I have a pure thickness.
I have a pure thickness. So that's been the.
You with a fucked shoulder and 2 fucked feet.
2 fucked feet, yeah.
If you were a cow, you'd be.
You still have to carry it.
Put down at this stage.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't get much better last night, but anyway.
Yeah.
And then we went out Tuesday, myself and yourself.
Yeah.
And Jesus,
seen a world, an absolute fucking world of deer. So we got a couple for the freezer as well. So yeah, all's good. It was good season so far, wasn't it? Good,
yeah, exactly. And we're applying for a section now on one of the pieces of land.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll keep people abreast of the
that
process.
The implications and that, exactly right. Yeah. Numbers wise, I know it's not all about numbers. What did you finish off with for the season? What did you?
What was it? 5, Brad?
5, yeah, good going. Yeah. Fucking happy days, man. Enough, yeah, exactly. Yeah, 5 myself, yeah.
Yourself, same as yourself.
5 as well, lad, yeah. 5 as well, yeah.
So we're eating plenty.
Eating
well.
Venison to go around everywhere. What are we on? Jack
Ryan, Beggar's Bush.
Yeah.
Avril actually got us this for Valentine's Day present for the podcast.
Avril, thanks for my Valentine's present. Thanks.
I have to fucking delete her number out of your phone, I think.
No, there's no need for that now. Thanks a million. This is good stuff, man. Good stuff.
You put hairs in your chest, man, I tell you.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, be the fuck.
Yeah, I told you.
Be the
there
Jesus,
you go.
That is it, yeah. Holy shit.
You weren't expecting that, were
you?
A
little bit of battery acid. No, it's not. It's lovely.
No, it's nice.
Really good stuff.
You just weren't expecting the aftertaste, and I think.
Yeah, it's good stuff though. Yeah, the Lord, just that heats you up anyway, yeah.
It's marmalade and cinnamon and ginger.
Marmalade.
I taste whiskey.
It's good stuff. Tell me this before we move on to our guest. What was going on? Did you do anything in the club this week, or what way is?
Yeah, Board and Mona kindly donated towards some of the projects we have going on throughout the year. So, and we're in consultation with another one of the local businesses in terms of some donating some land towards conservation and maybe helping us out with getting numbers up, of
pheasant numbers.
Yeah, pheasant and duck as well, and maybe even down the road
grouse, partridge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
deadly.
So they have a little bit of wetland and bogland. So it's early doors, but so I won't name them. But that's interesting.
Happy days.
We're collecting our hen pheasants. Shane O'Neill has them, I think, towards the end of this week. Coming.
Much.
Yeah. So it's all go. And then Ollie O'Regan got the boys in the club don't know this yet, but by the time the podcast is out, I got them all a little keyring, with the
from
same as
Sheafin.
ours. Yeah, from Stephen Leather.
Deadly.
So yeah, but he did a little initials to the gun club on the back. So there was one for each of the lads, and
even your man that's always giving you shit.
Yeah, well, I might take the cartridge head out with his one.
My God, that is dedication. You should be the chairman.
Yeah, I look
at
anyway.
Yeah,
there's one for all of them. So it's just something just to a tough year put in. By everyone, so just to kind of to market.
Brilliant.
Yourself, what's going on in yours?
No, next weekend is a big working bee in the club, so we're out Saturday and Sunday doing bridges, paths, clearing stuff, getting stuff ready. So big effort, kind of, look, the lads are busy, so it's hard to get every lad. So we decided cut back on some of the projects we had planned this year and just go hard for one weekend, get everything done as well as we can. And then closer to the time, we'll just go around and do the paths again before we get the birds. And that'll be it.
Same amount of birds as last year, Bren?
Probably going to go for a few more ducks now. I think we're going to try and because obviously we've the pond out there, so we're going to try and maybe we're thinking about
increase numbers there.
Yeah, we might do. Yeah, we might see about a project. Look, we were looking into the grouse project and stuff. It's fantastic. We'd love to do it and get involved.
Huge work.
It's a lot of work, and your members need to be kind of freed up, and unfortunately all our members, like any lad, they're kids, families, you know what I mean. It's hard to get time. So.
Just on that, you probably seen one of the posts there. One of the lads in our club had a fox trap, trap up. One of the guys actually was asking on the Facebook page. We have a contact for fox trap.
Andy, we're going to talk more about. I'm actually in talks with Andy at the minute. Andy is. I'll have to find out. I won't name his company because I'm not 100% sure on it. But he's a new up and coming company doing ladder traps, mink traps, fox traps, etc. So we're going to talk a bit more with Andy.
Brilliant.
Come up with a deal. There might be a bit of a deal, a bit of a discount for listeners and stuff. So.
Brilliant. Because it was a bit of interest in terms of where do you get them and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So so look, numbers are still plenty. You got out for a fox with
disaster.
Well,
not even a disaster, man. We got out. We saw one. Myself and McKeever went out. We saw one. Look. Pushing the distance with the 1.7. It was pushing it. There's no point in saying different. I was pushing it. It was over. It was getting on towards 200 yards. But I didn't get him. That was a long and short. And I got another opportunity, another shot at him. But it was still at a big distance, and I still didn't get him. And it was a calm night and everything. So I don't know, man. I'm just just going to use the 1.7 for rabbits now. I'm just, look, it will do the job for fox. Damo was actually out last night. He got himself one last night. It will definitely do it. But to go from the 2.43 where you're, I hit a fox at 250 yards to
I think I kind of referenced this a couple of weeks back, and it would have been my feeling that bring your 1.7 out when you're doing rabbits, and if you come across a fox, so be it.
Happy days.
But if you're going foxing,
bring it to 2.43. It's done the job. Soon to be 270 though.
Look, dead is dead, man.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, exactly. So that is all. I'm going to now introduce our guest.
I'm really excited about this now.
Yeah, exactly. This is the guru, the absolute guru. That is Noel Swan. Noel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much, Brendan and Anthony, for having me on here. I think you used the word expert at the beginning. You should use that very loosely and completely open to interpretation as well.
Man, I have seen the pictures. So.
Yeah, exactly. Can I just say, no, you're a room full of experts here.
You're among friends here, lad. Don't worry about it. Yeah. What's going on? How are you keeping?
Yeah, good, thanks, Brendan. Trying to get out doing a little bits of pike fishing when I can. Out with the lures, out with the dead bait, and see what's happening. Fish on the move now. I've seen some pictures recently of lads that seem to be catching fairly decent pike, so they're on the feed now, coming up to spawn and time and stuff like that. So,
deadly.
But I've been looking myself over the past couple of weeks. I've had a few nice ones. I think you featured a picture there.
I did
on the Facebook page of a nice
monster
18-pound from the canal. I was delighted with that. And I've had a few more kind of half decent ones as well from similar stretch as well.
Yes,
no, it's going well now.
Fair play to you. Yeah.
Can I just rewind, I suppose, Noel, just a little bit? How did you? Because obviously I'm new to fishing. This is my first year fishing. So this is all. Anything you'll be talking about here will be completely new to me. Obviously, I know bits and pieces from the challenge and stuff, but by and large, how did you get into fishing? When did it all start? And what was your? You said you have a gun. Was it shooting first, then fishing, or was it fishing always your first love?
Well, I suppose I actually would have done a bit of shooting to begin with. My father was into shooting and my brother's into shooting as well, so I would have had the shotgun and the rifle and stuff like that. And then over time, I suppose, I kind of slightly fell out of love with the shooting and kind of took up more of the fishing. I suppose, from a young age. And Brendan, you would have actually been there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would have been we would have been hopping a fence right across from where I grew up, and Brendan and his brother Andrew would have been there as well. We'd be going across the field with buckets, and we were dipping them into the local small river.
Jam jars.
Yeah, jam jars as well.
Jars as well. Yeah,
catching pinkians and diving beetles and frog spawn and stuff like that. And you know yourself, you'd fill the bucket with water, you'd start to pour it out then, and you'd see what's left in the bucket, and you'd gather them up for the day and count them at the end. And you might have brought one home in a jam jar for a couple of days and then let them go again. But no, I think it was just like, just loved getting outside, loved catching stuff from the river, and you never knew what was going to be in your bucket. And it's similar to that now, like even when you cast in, you just don't know what size of a pike is going to take your bait next. And it's the unknown and it's the uncertainty, and that's what gives me the buzz.
Exactly. I was literally thinking of this morning, just when I was getting ready. I think we all love a mystery, and I think that's a big part of fishing, isn't it? You know, there's a mystery. You just don't know.
Absolutely.
What's there?
You see a feature and you'll see a patch of reeds and you'll think to yourself, geez, that looks so pikey over there. So if I was a pike, I'd be lying up there now instead, ready to snatch the bait fish. And you put your lure past it, and maybe 6 times out of 10, nothing happens. But when it does shoot out and you get that take, well, you just love it, like, and you feel the pull at the end of the rod, and you're like, Jesus, it's a 20 pounder now. It mightn't be 20, more like a 6 pounder, but still in all, like it's just the buzz of actually getting the hit on the lure, or you see your float begin to move off in the distance. And I know I'm kind of romanticizing here about it, but it is. It's the unknown, and then striking into it and see what it is at the other end.
Yeah, that's like I think when we went out on the challenge, I said to Rob, you know, the dead bait, I was saying, here we are now, we're buying a fish now to catch fish. I said, what's the fucking point in this, you know? And but when I started, I have to say, like, because I've been just, you know, shooting predominantly, as Brendan tell you, running up and down we won't mention my fishing expertise, but like when I was spinning and I could definitely, you know, I started to get the how would you say, the buzz or the feel, and like what you're saying there, the expectation. And Rob got a bit of a hit on one of his, which, you know, that's all, it's kind of all feeds into it, you know. So you start to, the excitement starts to build. So
100%.
Look, I'm hooked, and I'm looking at some of these things we've in front of us, which we'll talk about in the next few minutes. But wow is right. Some selection stuff, But as well, I just say as well, like, even in the cast, I always remember, and you'll attest to this, when we were kids and we were playing up, and what even was that river? Was there a name of that river?
No, it was a little distributary of a tributary to the Boyne, I think, Brendan.
But like, remember, there was kind of I can remember as clear as day. There was like foliage in 90% of it. But there was this tiny little crystal clear section, wasn't there? In between the weeds, and we'd, you know, a bit of string and a glass jam jar and let it down, and then even the pinky, you know, the first thing you'd be comparing is the size of it. Like, geez, that was a big one.
Isn't
it? And even nowadays, it's like it's all I got to do. I suppose typical men, it's all about the size, but it's definitely, it's something that's, I think, it's in us. And we done obviously the 24-hour challenge, and that's one thing I will say. That's one thing I remember asking you after the challenge of Christmas: is there anything you take away from what? And you straight away said the fishing. And we would have been predominantly hunting, and you
100%. I think, like, as I'm looking at some of the stuff that you brought here today, and you can definitely see how I'm looking at some of the lures here, and you're saying, oh geez, I wonder what that one does, and it's intrigue. And
with this one, I'm fucking bluff. For anyone that can't see this is like, I've never seen that like this. This is what is this, a mouse? Rat?
It's a Savage Gear rat, Brendan. That lure there, so it is predominant. Well, you can fish it on the top water, so it just looks like a rat swimming across the surface. But you can also fish that below the surface as well. And
Pike are taking these. Pike will eat rats.
100%. That rat there has been taken a number of times. You can see he's missing an ear. But no,
he actually is.
No, that rat has been taken a number of times by Pike, and
there's actually whiskers on him.
Oh, absolutely. It's really detailed. Probably one of my favourite top water lures to use. And the good thing about that lure is you can fish that lure nice and slowly, and the pike can follow it, and it has a good length of time to watch it. And then you can, if you fish it slightly faster, it will dive down. You can stop it. It will start to rise slowly up through the water again. And it might be just at that moment where the lure is beginning to rise up through the water. It just gives the pike just that moment, that instinct to snatch at it, and you get a take when you actually stop reeling rather than when you are reeling. And 9 times out of 10, that lure does connect with the pike, you know. It's a great lure, and if you're having a slow day on a canal, and I predominantly fish canals and small rivers, that's my kind of area. That's one of my go-to lures. If you want to fish slightly subsurface, as I was saying, you can hook it just down here by the vein, or you can. What I like to do is I just like to put on just 2 small little LG weights on the front of it, just to bring it down under the surface. You know?
Oh, so it will float without weight. If you don't put weights on it, it'll float.
Oh, it does float. Yeah, it just depending on where you hook it up. If it's down here at the vein, or if it's down here, or if you hook up at the nose, that'll determine whether it's going to go top water or just slightly below the surface. But if you want to bring it down just that little bit more, I like to put a little weight on the front of that to bring it down. So I'm going to
guess here will dive him, and this will bring him across the top of him.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fascinating. What you're obviously trying to achieve here, and I know this probably sounds simplistic to you guys, but you're obviously trying to mimic.
Look at his feet, like Jesus,
a realistic, rat or mouse in the water. The way he's operating in the water.
Yeah, and that's not even the most outrageous lure that's out there. Like, you have other ones that look like ducklings, like Savage Gear make them as well. The Savage Gear Suicide Duck, it's called. And again, you put that on the water, and now I've never used one of them. Okay. But they do get takes. I have one in another box I don't have here with me today. It's a ridiculous lure. It's a bat. And you cast it out, and the wings of the bat kind of flutter along the top of the water to mimic something in distress, and it has kind of a hairy detail on it as well, like it is a bat in the water. I have never caught on it. I think I've used it once, and I put it back in the box, never probably to be used again. I'm a bit embarrassed actually to take it out, to be honest with you.
I'd say that sales, but it's just like, well, we see now who's going to come in and buy the shark.
Yeah, I think the lure caught me rather than catching a pike. Like, I saw it in the shop and thought, well, look, I'll give it a shot, but it's probably not going to be used again.
Okay, yeah. Cool to have though, and in fairness, some of them are cool to have. Like,
I tell you, some of them are works of art. Like, they're literally they're looking at
what is this thing?
What is that thing?
Well, this guy here is called a Murius mouse, and so it has, it's meant to mimic another kind of a mouse, I suppose, kind of in the water. But at the back of it, then you have these lovely double kind of. I don't know, they're not a paddle tail, it's a kind of a squirrely tail at the back of it. But a good lure again, another great one. When it's a slow day, pop that on, and I won't say you're guaranteed a pike, but they do seem to like that lure. It's a very, very good lure to have in the box. And I have it in this colour here, this brown colour, but I also have it in a kind of a brighter orange and yellow colour as well. And it's a good lure to catch a pike. Yeah, really good on that one.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Untethered and Wanderwise, where adventure has no age limit. We're your co-host, Heidi Brandist and Nikki Mahandro, and we're here to inspire and celebrate women over 45 who are embracing their independence and want to explore the world on their own terms.
And I suppose a question, like the bright coloured one, is that different times of year, different stretches of water?
It could depend on what's working on the day. Like, if you're not getting any baits, the good thing to do is change up your lures and see what is working. Some days they're going to hit the brighter colours. Some days they're going to go for the darker colours. It might depend on the colour of the water. Yeah. It might depend on the light conditions in the day as well. Okay. So it's just a matter about finding what's actually working on that day. Some lads would reckon that if you've got a dark coloured water, a dark coloured lure will work best in that water. It kind of shows up better in the water for the pike than your lighter coloured lures. But again, it's just about experimenting on the day and seeing what's actually going to work. Like, as I said to you there just before we started recording here today, I was showing you one of the lures here. This lure here, this is a Savage Gear Real Eel, and this one here that I have in my hand is kind of white in colour with some orange trim on it. Okay. And I have a number of them. I have a brown one, and I have another kind of a yellowish colour one as well. But fishing all the different real eels on the day, that's the one that got the strike from the pike in the same swim. So again, it's just about what are the fish feeding on, what's going to turn them on the day.
And how long as a rule, and I suppose it varies, but say if you, and I know you're probably wondering the same question, how long do you try it? So you throw in this fella, how long are you giving a go to this? Like,
look, that's open to interpretation. I think it's personal to every angler, but I would say I would fish for half an hour, 40 minutes with the same lure, and if I'm not having any luck on it, I'll change it up and I'll see what happens. Having said that, I have been guilty of going out with a lure that I love and I know I'm confident with that it will catch pike, and maybe I'm not getting any hits, and I still continue to use it for maybe an hour or 2 hours because I have a confidence in that lure. It's all about, sometimes it is about having confidence in your lure, and that'll determine how you'll fish as well.
Okay.
If you're not confident, I don't think you're going to catch.
Although
you can get lucky.
Yeah, of course. It's
about having confidence in the lure that you're using.
And so you're obviously, like, because there's a few things, like there's a few things against you here. You know, obviously your position, there may not be a pike close to where you're fishing, I would presume. Would that be fair? It might be...
you could just be in a spot, I suppose, where...
So I suppose, like, in saying that, when I'm lure fishing, I'm constantly on the move. Okay. So, like, I will cover a couple of kilometres, like, in a day along the canal. It's not a case of I sit in one swim and I'm casting there. Like, I'll have maybe 3, maximum 4 casts in a swim along the canal or the small river. And if I'm not getting anything there, then I just move on to the next swim. And that might only be 20 metres down the bank, it might be less. But you're trying to pick out some features. You're imagining, where would I be if I was a pike waiting to ambush a fodder fish?
Yes.
And so just keep on the move. It's about movement, and it's about just keep on casting, because the pike, I've heard it referred to before, it's the fish of 1,000 casts, and like it could be the fish of 2,000 casts, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But it's about just keeping on moving, vary up the retrieve style as well, because this lure here, this is exactly what I'm talking about, the Savage Gear reel eel. You can cast that out. You can do a straightforward retrieve on that, just winding in on your reel, and the tail will do a lot of the work for you. But it's about varying the retrieve. So I can reel it in, stop it, let it flutter down through the water column, start it again, stop, flutter down through the water column. And it's often on the drop, as it drops down through the water, that's when the pike will strike it. So it's following it along. It sees a sudden stop. This is irregular. This is a fish in distress. Bang, you've got your pike.
Okay.
So it's about varying it up. So as well as I suppose I said earlier, it was about trying out the different lures. It's also about varying up your retrieve style as well.
Yeah.
So essentially, like I'm learning just that's phenomenal, because what you're doing is you're mimicking the animal or the fish that you're trying to. We talked about last week, letting it drop, and I would have been just literally spinning back in.
So would I. I would have been literally just casting the far side, just spinning, and the fish is just becoming at a steady speed.
Look, you will catch fish in that way, but you'll catch more fish if you give it a little bit more action. Yeah. So sometimes it's not just about stop and reeling either. You can give a little bit of a flick on the end of the rod tip, which gives it just that little bit more lifelike movement in the water. And again, the pike sees that movement and it's just turned on by it, and that's your pike then giving you a strike.
The seal essentially is or rat. They're essentially feeding as well, so that's what they will do in their natural habitat. They'll dart at something. Stop.
Absolutely,
So
but there's one thing now I straight off the bat notice here, and I 100% have been going way wrong. The size of all of these. These are probably twice the size of any lure I've been using.
And to be honest with you, Brendan, these would be classed as medium, probably to smaller in the.
Even in
range,
canals and stuff.
Wow. Like you can't underestimate what a pike will hit in the canal. Yeah. Like you can put on a large lure and you can catch a small pike on it, and you take it out and you think, what were you thinking when you went for this lure? Because there's no way you are going to be able to eat it. These lures here are probably ranging from probably 12 to 15 centimeters in length. That's kind of my go-to length in lures. Yeah. Now, I was fishing recently and I met up with another angler on the canal bank, and he was fishing 20 centimetre lures and 22 centimetre lures in the canal. Wow. And, I suppose he was probably doing that to weed out the smaller fish. He wasn't interested in having the smaller ones. He was only looking for maybe your larger pike. Yeah. But the larger pike will take these lures of 12 to 15 centimetres. As I said to you earlier, that Savage Gear reel eel lure, and I'm not beating the drum too much on that lure, but that one there, that exact lure, that I've had a 17-pound pike from the canal on that. And that lure there is probably maybe 18 or 19 centimetres from head to tip. This one here, the Fox Replicant lure, had a lovely 15-pound on this, and this lure here is no more than 12 centimetres. But one of the defining features of this lure is the large paddle tail at the back. Okay. So that's sending out vibrations the whole time to a following fish, and it displaces quite a lot of water with that large paddle tail. Okay. So when I'm picking out a lure, I like to, I I'd be of the opinion that soft baits, likes of these lures, fish better than the likes of the hard bait lures. That's only my own personal opinion, and someone else will think the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I just love the movement of the soft baits and those large paddle tails at the back displacing the water. So that Fox replicant lure, savage lure altogether.
And that's a kind of defining feature of a lot of your lures here. There's tails, so it's not just about the how would you say, the aesthetics. It's about creating the, as you said, little movements and the nuances in the water that these fish would do in their natural habitat. It's fascinating.
It is 100%. Yeah, I agree with you.
And as well as that, like if you go into, let's say, coloured water where the pike can't necessarily see your lure, they will be able to sense the movement of the tail, and so they'll be able to hone in on that movement and then up behind your lure, and then you've got a take from the pike, simply because of the movement of the tail and the displacement that the lure is causing in the water. But like there's other lures here, like this smaller one here. This is what's it called? It's a soft foreplay, it's called.
It's like a roach, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a roach pattern. It's called a dirty roach, actually.
Okay.
And this one here doesn't have a large paddle tail. In fact, it has quite a small tail. But the way you'd fish this one is it kind of comes in on its side a small bit, and you mimic a dying fish with that one. So that's fished quite slowly. And, you run that past, you see a patch of weed. You run that past the weed nice and slowly, up and down, just letting it look and flutter down to the bottom. And I guarantee you, if a pike is there, he's going to see that, he's going to hit it. And hopefully you connect up with him. But, that's not about displacing the water. That's all about the visual impact of that lure there.
That's
and
brilliant.
the way that it looks like a dying fish.
I'm blown away with this, man. There's a million times more to it.
It's a fucking science.
100%, man. Like,
Look, there's a good bit of luck involved in it too, let's be honest.
No,
because
I know, but at the same time, you have to be in the same ballpark, really, don't you?
Yeah.
That's something. But they're all soft. You don't use any.
I would have used some of the harder lures, but I do tend to lean towards the soft baits now. I've older lures there. They're kind of I can't remember the name of them now, but they look like small pike. They're jointed lures. They're hard baits, and they are good. Don't get me wrong.
Do they split in the middle? Do they?
They do. Yeah, they're a jointed lure. Now they're good, but I just prefer to use the soft baits, and it's the movement of them. And again, it's completely open to interpretation from each angler.
And do they break ones? Like would that?
No, I've never had any pike break that. No.
I won't mind, man. Like, I'd walk into, and as you would, we would walk into Wild Hunter and other fishing shops often, probably once a week, realistically, like, and I'd often be buying lures, and I would see, for every, say, hard plastic lure I would see 10 of these, and I'd never buy one. I swear to God, because I don't know, I just always thought, that's the ones people use. They're not the ones people use.
They're more brittle or something, maybe.
Yeah, I just what the fuck would you use that for? So obviously, and I have spoke to another man who does a lot of fishing, and he has exactly said what Noel has said, that this is the go now. This is what people are using now.
So brass tacks, Noel, what's the biggest pike you've landed?
The biggest pike I've personally landed, and in the grand scheme of things, it's not a monster, but it's an 18 pound. But coming out of a canal, that's a fairly decent fish. You don't come across them too often. And I, as I said to you at the beginning, I mainly fish canals and small rivers, and from a canal, like from years of fishing for pike, you'd often have pike ranging from like £2 up to £10. And then every now and again you get a decent fish, and they got £18. Like I was delighted with it. Previous to that, it was £17. I've had a few 15s, I've had 14, and then a couple of 12s and an 11. But £18 at the moment. Actually, the £18 was only caught recently. You actually featured the picture of it.
Yeah.
So that was caught on dead bait, and actually, I suppose the £17 was caught in a lure. The £18 was caught in dead bait. Lots of lads will tell you that you catch your bigger fish on dead bait. It's open to interpretation again.
Okay.
But I suppose recently I've been fishing with dead baits, and I have been catching bigger fish. Like I have caught the £18 recently, and then I caught the 13.5 pound there just a couple of days after it, and 11 as well. And in the canal, that's fairly good going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but there was some fucking size of fish, like,
that is, like, just to put that in, like, £18, like, it's phenomenal, isn't it?
It is 100%. Yeah,
it's a good baby anyway.
It's a good baby, is right.
Absolutely.
My God, yeah, it is £18, man. Sure, like that one Cooper caught was 7, and I was like, you see, like Cooper's not a small fella, like, and the size of it, and that was only £7, like. Yeah. It was something
I can't
else,
wait to get started this,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, get stuck into it. And I suppose we'll talk a bit on dead baits.
Yeah.
Talk us through what's your setup like. What are we using?
Yeah, so if I even go through the day that I caught that pike there recently, so it was caught on a smelt. So that's a sea fish.
A sea fish?
Yeah.
Because you put me onto them, so I've got a few of them in my freezer now. Fair set of teeth on them.
On the smelt?
Yeah.
Just I never really looked in their mouth, Brendan.
I did when I was putting the right little set of fucking teeth on them. Yeah.
So look, I smelt is one of my go-to baits, and you can use some flavorings on there as well. Like I normally spray it with a little bit of I think of lamprey oil is one of them, and then I have some herring as well. And as well as that, smelt is a kind of it's almost like a translucent fish. It's kind of a whitish yellow. Yeah. So I like to give it a little bit more colour. So I do give it a splash of red lamprey dye, and then a brighter yellow towards the tail as well. Just maybe there's a visual element to it. There's definitely a smell element to it that the pike can smell it and hone in on the bait.
Just hold up here now for a second. I'm fucking you're dying fish.
Did I not tell you to do that?
No. You told me fuck off. He set me up to fail in the challenge, man. I tell you.
Fuck you! I didn't. I didn't.
Spinning with dead bait. He was there.
But geez, we'll come on to that, because like you're saying you're spinning with dead bait, but you'll catch pike wobbling dead baits. That's another way to fish your dead bait.
Okay.
We can have a chat about that in a minute.
Okay.
Wobbling dead baits, it's really successful.
So just you actually buy dye and just splash it on again for the visual of the.
Yeah, it's a flavoured dye. As I say, my two go-tos will be lamprey and herring. I used to get them. They used to be called Pike Pro. You can't get them in Ireland at the minute. Okay, you can get other ones to use there.
I use one is like Predator or something. It's like it's red in colour.
Yeah, there's lots of them out there, to be honest, and I'm sure they all work just as well as the next.
Okay,
but yeah, you would spray it onto your fish, and it gives a visual element to it. It definitely gives that extra bit of smell to attract the pike in, and just gives you the edge. Now, you will catch pike if you don't spray it with anything. If you get your dead bait, let's say if I'm going to go dead baiting, I take the dead bait out of the freezer the night before, and I let it melt kind of naturally. Okay. And then before you cast it into the water, some lads would like to put a few puncture holes in the fish, maybe, or just cut the head off the fish. And again, that will release some more of that smell and some more of the juice of the fish, I suppose. To attract your pike in. I generally give them the spray and use them that way. So so a treble hook near the tail. So there's a nice bony part just at the tail. So I had to put one of the trebles in through that, and that will hold your fish on most of the time. Yeah. And then put your other treble then up along the flank of the fish. I generally don't like to go too far up along the fish, maybe kind of just beyond midway going towards the head, but not too far up the fish, because as your pike will take your dead bait, he's going to turn that in his mouth, he's going to go to swallow it, and if you are not someone who's going to strike early, you're going to have a deep hooked fish. So I like to have the trebles just that little bit, just past the middle of the fish, to avoid deep hooked fish. Now strike early as well, of course, to do that, but that's my own way of doing it.
But there's an art to that too now, because like I've probably done a good bit of dead bait fishing lately, because after a challenge, like I was hooked on it. And then of course seeing the pictures you put up, and I was fucking hooked on it.
I think I should give you a phone call that day, Brendan, to see what you're around to take a picture for me.
You did actually, yeah. Where the fuck are you, man? What the fuck's going on? But there are a couple of things there. I have 3 or 4 times now at this stage, a dead bait strike or whatever I suppose you might call it. It's very easy to see. Obviously you have a fairly decent size float, and when it moves, like, it doesn't move much for anything other than the strike, really. Well, that's just what I've noticed. A couple of times my float has really slowly just gone under the water, and then I'd give it a minute and I might give it a strike, and you'd feel it for a second. You'd feel the resistance and then gone.
Yeah, well, you're better off to feel the resistance and the pike be gone rather than having a deep hook fish. Okay. So what I would say is, when you see your indication on the surface on your float, you get a sometimes if your float is lying flat on the top, you get a little tip at the end of the float, and you know you've got to pick up. Then your float might start to move away, and at that point, you know the bait is in the pike's mouth. Okay. Now he probably has a sideways in his mouth. He's carrying it off. He wants to turn it, but I would say generally somewhere. Not everyone will agree, but somewhere around about 10 seconds is all I'd leave it. Before I'd strike down on the fish. Okay. If I miss him, fine, but I do not want to result in a deeply hooked pike, because that can be a nightmare on the side of the canal bank or the river bank. So yeah, the pike will pick it up, turn it in his mouth, and that's why your trebles are faced in such a way that when you strike, you're going to be pulling them back out of his mouth, as it were, so they catch onto his mouth or the scissors of his lips, before it becomes deeply hooked.
Okay, yeah, because that genuinely happened to me 3 or 4 times now at this stage. Float goes under. I gave it probably sort of too long or maybe too quick or whatever, and I just gave it. I probably, do you know what I didn't do? I wasn't probably vigorous enough with the whip. I just started to reel as opposed to trying to hook him.
Yeah.
Do you know what
and you can see it as well sometimes when you get an indication on the float, and if it stops and you're kind of thinking to yourself, is that float, did it move or is it not moving? Is it still moving? You're better off to strike there and then.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely, because the pike might be sitting there, he might have it in his mouth, and he might at that time be beginning to swallow that bait. So if in doubt, just strike to avoid that deeply hooked fish.
Oh, okay.
As well as sometimes lads, maybe someone's starting out, they're not that experienced maybe, and they're fishing too far over depth. You're not getting the indication, and so sometimes you might get a small amount of indication because you're fishing too far over depth. The pike has too much time to have the bait, swallows it, and now you're in big trouble.
When you say over depth, Noel, what do you mean by over depth?
So before you begin to fish your dead bait, you'd plumb the depth of the water.
Okay.
So before you have your terminal trace at the end, you'd put on a large weight to bring your float under the water, and then you keep just adjusting your float, keep casting it out. If the float's not come to the surface, then reel it back in, move your stop knot back up the line, let your float come back and further until your float breaks the surface. When the weight is on the bottom.
Okay.
Now, some lads, and myself included, I kind of like to fish my float kind of half cocked. So it's sitting up in the water, but at an angle. And I know that the weight's on the bottom, the float has just breached the surface, and I've given it a little bit extra, just that it's kind of lying just slightly over. So I know when I hook on my bait now, I know my bait's going to the bottom, and I have a little egg sinker just above the bait on the line. I know the egg sinker's sitting on the bottom. I know the bait is just maybe a foot beyond that. My float is sitting just at the surface of the water, a nice straight line up to it, and I know I've got a good tight indication there set up for that pike. If you're too far over, let's say, your pike could have it in his mouth and you wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't even know about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That does make sense. Yeah. And as well as that, would it be fair to say, I actually do the same as you, but not for. I just always, when I'd be setting up my float, it'd be sitting. So say that's flat on the water, that's sitting up, I'd have it somewhere.
That's half cocked.
This kind of angle. And I suppose now, I haven't done much pike fishing, but I would have done a lot of coarse fishing. And sometimes with the old waggler, how you'll know you have a fish is instead of it going down, it'll come up, because it'll pick up the bait and it'll lift it, and your float will actually come up as opposed to going down. So could you say the same about dead bait? Could it be a situation that instead of your float going down, it could actually lie back over?
Absolutely, yeah. If the pike picks it up, your float could go over. It's any change really on the float will indicate that there's a pike take. I mean, if you fish your float, I was describing there fishing the float half cocked. If you give a little bit more line out there and you fish your float lying flat on the surface of the water, when the pike takes the bait, the float might actually stand up. Rather than, it stands straight up and then it starts to move across and down underneath the water, and it's away on a take. Okay. So you know from moment one, as soon as that pike picks it up, from looking at your float that he has it, because you're fishing at the correct depth. And you're set up for good indication. And
how crucial is the depth? The depth, I don't do that. I didn't actually plumb it, but I will.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on what you're like. If you're fishing floats, like on a canal, it's a good idea to fish floats. If you're fishing in much deeper water, then you might just go for a ledger setup. And in that case, there's no float used. You'd have a free running rig on your line. So what you do is you'd have a free running weight on your line. Okay. And down from that, then you have your trebles and your bait and so on. So you'd actually set that up insofar you'd cast out your bait. Yeah. You tighten everything up down to the weight. It's free moving, so the bait the line can move through this running ring. Okay. And then you turn on if you have a bait casting reel, you turn on your bait runner at the back, which allows the line to move freely off the spool. Okay. Put it into a bite alarm. As soon as a pike picks it up, the line moves through that running ring, and it moves off your reel, sets off the bite alarm, and you've got a pike on the other end again. So that that might be another way to do it if you're fishing in deeper water. I use a running a ledger float rig as well. So it's all what I've just mentioned there with the free running weight on it, but I also include a float at the top as extra insurance, so I can get a good early indication on it. And I wouldn't always use that. Sometimes I just use a basic float and a small egg sinker on the bottom, especially in a canal. There's no much flow.
Yeah. And you were saying you predominantly fish canals and small rivers.
Canals and small rivers, yeah. I generally stay away from the lakes and stuff like that, just because they're not local to me here. So I just
And in general terms, Noel, where do you get the better or the bigger specimens, canal or rivers?
Probably, you'd probably get the better fish out of the rivers, and you'd probably find harder fighting fish in the river as well. They might be that bit fitter because they're probably swimming, and they have to contend with the flow in the river as well. Yeah. So they're that bit stronger. Yeah. You don't have that in the canal. They're kind of big, lazy lumps in the canal that you can connect up to. Yeah. But probably from the rivers. But actually, just to go back for 1 second, do you remember earlier on you were saying about spinning dead baits?
Yes.
There's this thing as well, it's a really successful way of doing it. It's wobbling dead baits. Okay. And that's basically where you get the likes of what you had there, Brendan, the smelt. And small enough fish, maybe something around about maybe 10 centimeters.
Yeah.
You can use a treble like you would use dead baiting. So you'd put one treble up through the floor of the fish's mouth and out the top of its nose, and put the other treble just further back along its flank, and then all you do is cast in, and you literally just wobble that fish along, making it look like it's alive, but yet it's a dying fish. Okay. Now, again, you can set it up in different ways. The way I like to do it is I like to set up that my drag, the resistance on the reel is set very light. So if a pike does take it, I would give him the 5 to 6 seconds to head off with the bait. He hasn't felt any resistance. He doesn't know that he's holding the bait. Then I like to just tighten back down it and strike into the fish. Other people, they'll use their wobble dead baits and they'll have their drag set up in such a way similar to when you're lure fishing that you can strike straight away. Personally, I like to leave it to 5 or 6 seconds just to let the pike have it in his mouth. It's it's well established in there, and then strike down into it. But a great way, and I've caught loads of fish. In fact, that was my go-to method for years.
I was ahead of my time, really.
Yeah,
ahead of my time. And you were trying to sabotage me. Yeah.
Andy has his own version of fit fishing, he calls it, because that cone he can't sit still for 2 minutes. So he does another where he literally he throws in a fish and runs up and down the river bank with it as opposed to reeling it.
And again, it works because
man,
he's ahead of his time.
I'm ahead of my time.
If you go onto YouTube there, you will see lads that will cast in their lure, and if you've got a good stretch of straight canal, they'll walk along with a nice long lure held out, long rod held out.
Trawling,
basically. And you will get takes along that as well.
I was ahead of my time. That's what we're trying to say here.
Jeez,
a nipper.
From listening to us here now,
show us the pike to prove it.
From listening to us here, you'd wonder, how would you not catch a pike?
The bait might have been debatable. I think it's skin of a rasher or something at the end of it, or maybe. Anyway.
Oh, fucking class. Dead bait. Let's talk about costs. So say for someone that's totally new to it, likes listening to the podcast, thinking, do you know something, I'm going to give that a go.
Mm-hmm. I suppose I recently picked up a new dead baiting rod. It's a kind of it's pretty much budget. It's called a Fox Rage Predator. Mm-hmm. It's a 10-foot rod. Now, normal dead baiting rods are probably around about the 12-foot mark. I find where I fish, 10 foot is plenty. 12 foot kind of gets in the way when you're trying to land the fish, stuff like that. So I picked up that rod for just under €80. Okay. And then I suppose a reel on top of that, you pick up a nice reel there, a decent enough one for maybe €70-75 on top of that. Mm-hmm. And then you have to start thinking about what line are you going to use.
Yeah.
No, and actually, Ryan, that's something we had a chat about one time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You were asking me about, what was it again? Braided line?
Break and strain, yeah.
No, braided line you were asking.
Oh, sorry, braided line. So, yeah, I had bought a new Savage rod and reel, and it came with braid. And I never used braid before. Genuinely, I was always, was it nylon? I suppose, is it nylon?
Yeah, monofilament nylon line. Yeah.
Monofilament nylon line. And I was looking at this braid. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? And I tried tying it with it a couple of times and it wasn't successful. And I was like, I said the first thing, me and my ignorance said, the first thing I'm doing is getting rid of that fucking whatever it is. So as soon as I could, went back to my nylon, got my braid off it and fucked it out. And it turns out, no, that wasn't a smart move.
What is the difference? Yeah, what is the difference?
So look, it might have been a smart move. If you have poor quality braid on your line, it's going to break your heart because it's going to go into knots. It's just going to be a disaster.
Right.
So yeah, I would be saying braided line is the way to go when you're pike fishing. So if you're going out with your lures, let's say, on my rod at the moment, I use quite a heavy break and strain braided line. So for the canals, like, it's very heavy, I suppose. But it's a 58 pound break and strain.
Jesus.
Now, that's not because I am pulling in monsters. That's just in case that I get caught in a snag or a bush or a tree and I want to pull it back. I know that the line's going to hold strong.
Yeah.
One of the advantages to the braided line as well when you're fishing is it doesn't have any stretch in it. Okay. So when you go to set your hooks, you have a nice strong connection between you and the fish, but you feel everything as well.
Okay.
But I suppose one of the things to be careful of is at the end of your braided line, what I like to do is, and I know other lads do it as well, you'll set up your leader. So on my lure rod, I have my 58 pound, it's called Daiwa J braid. It's a lovely, lovely line to use. In my experience, hasn't knotted once on me. And it's very strong. It's actually, Anthony, you were asking what's the difference between the monofilament and the braided line. The monofilament is like a single strand of plastic, if you like, whereas the braided line, the one that I'm using, it's called Daiwa J braid by 8. It's 8 strands of synthetic fibre wound into one. Okay. And it's extremely dense, extremely strong, and extremely thin.
Yeah.
Like, it literally looks like thread. You'd wonder how will that hold a good pike.
Yes.
But it will. I guarantee you it will not break. So down from that line, I have a nice heavy swivel again. It doesn't look like much, but it could be a 60 pound swivel. And from there, then I have a fluorocarbon leader. So that's a thicker, kind of a plastic type line.
Yes.
My leader is probably, for pike fishing, it could be 60 to 80 pound. Again, it doesn't look it because it's not very thick. And from there, then I have my trace on, and then I have my lure at the end of that. Guarantee you, there's no fish going to break that. I guarantee you.
You could tow the car with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone might be listening to this and might think, Genie Mac, is he going fishing for Moby Dick or what? But in my experience, it hasn't affected the number of bites that I get.
Okay.
I'm confident in my setup that it's not going to break. I'm confident that I'm not going to leave a lure in a pike's mouth.
Pike somewhere, yeah.
And I'm confident as well that if I get caught in a snag, a bush or a tree, I can bend the hooks and I'll get my gear back. Because and at the end of the day, like, gear is expensive, as you were saying a few minutes ago.
I was just going to say, what are we talking price wise for one of these guys?
So this one here is just your basic kind of a soft lure, probably in or around $8.99, $9.99 for one of those. Okay. However, if you're talking more about the Murius mouse, I'm nearly embarrassed to say this one was €32.
Rude. Are you listening to this?
That's €32 worth there, and it's a smaller version of it as well. You can get them more expensive. Okay. I have never bought a lure for €32, but again, I think I was just caught by the lure. But it does work.
Yes.
There's actually one lure now here that I actually neglected to bring it with me. I've just realised, but it's the jig fly. So you see this jig head here that I have in the reel eel. So you can actually buy flies that are tied around these larger jig heads now. Okay. And so you just have one single hook in your jig fly, and so it's like fly fishing for pike basically, but it's got a weight on it and it's done under the water. It's a really good method. Again, you can fish it slowly, you can fish it shallow, you can fish it deep. It's a great way to catch pike as well, and it's fantastic.
So that's an easy. These are all kind of easy setups as well for the likes of myself, I suppose. Yeah, like in terms of getting into the water, getting fishing, you're fishing fairly quickly.
Oh yeah, like the likes of this Fox Replicant, that's just a matter of just clipping it on and you're in the water and away you go. Yeah. The best one of them I've had now is I find that the roach pattern to be a very good pattern to catch a pike on. I suppose it's what they're naturally fishing or naturally eating in the canal.
Yes.
And the reason I don't have the roach one is because it's at us under, so I have to go with this one here, the grey and silver one. But no, very easy to set up, very easy to get going.
Sky's the limit with price, though. But would it be fair to say for a complete novice, like obviously I know your fox predator, so it's good stuff. Like it is obviously it's good stuff. You know. But you could probably realistically you could buy something for 50, 60 quid.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you're someone like maybe you're into your carp fishing and you want to try a bit of pike fishing, those rods are transferable. You can use them as well for pike fishing. They're well able to handle a pike. But I suppose the other side of it, Brendan, is as well as the rod, the reel, the line, the lures and that, you kind of need a little bit more gear going out as well. You know yourself, you have to have your gear for unhooking your pike. Yeah, 100%. So important. Without a doubt, You need to have your forceps, your pliers, your wire cutters with you as well, just in case that you have a deeply hooked pike. You know, all massively important as well. So
unhooking mats, some people
unhooking mats, I carry one in the back of the bag with me. Absolutely. So just to protect the fish. Pike look like a big, strong, ugly fish, but they're actually quite a vulnerable fish. And when it comes to handling pike, you have to be so careful. So, like, I don't know, Anthony, have you much experience in unhooking pike yourself?
No, I've never landed a pike, so this will be
never fucking landed that.
No, I suppose, look, when you have your pike out in the bank, it's at its most vulnerable now. You know, it's out of the water, obviously. So time is ticking. So, like, I suppose, and again, some people will have their own methods of doing it, but what I like to do is, you know, you get your fish out of the net and you just reach your hand just inside the gills, avoiding the gill rakers, so just on the outside of the gill rakers, but inside the gill. Slide your hand up until you feel a kind of a bony structure just underneath the chin here. Put your thumb on the underside of the chin, got a good firm grasp on the pike. Now he's under your control. You know, he's not going to be going anywhere. I like to get a leg either side of the pike, and so I have him in between my legs, and I just pull his mouth up towards me, and it naturally now opens because I have that good firm grip. And in I go then with the forceps and whatever. Brendan, you're having a good old laugh at this.
Sorry, I was wondering where you were going there.
No, I'm now astride the pike. So a leg either side of him. The only reason you do that is just to stop him from flipping around the place. Exactly, and damaging himself.
And that gill section, isn't there a part that's fairly sharp?
Oh, yeah. So all along the gill rakers, you can get cuts on your fingers from that.
Sure,
But very important not to damage the gill rakers, because that's how the pike is going to extract oxygen from the water. If you damage the gill rakers, you are effectively, you know, injuring that fish, and you're reducing his capability to take oxygen from the water. So very important, avoid the gill rakers, firm grip, forceps in, hooks out, and then you rest your fish back in the water. You know, you won't just fire him back in. You know, rest your fish back in the water, hold him there, even hold by the back of the tail until that fish feels like it wants to go. It'll give you a little kick, and even at that, just hold on an extra moment just to make sure that it's not going to go broadsided when it gets out to the middle of the water, and then it's absolutely fecked. So hold it, wait till it's ready to go, and then watch it go and watch it grow. Catch and release is the way to go.
No, look, when it comes to pike, obviously we're planning on doing a bit of trout fishing, which won't be released, but
most definitely will not be released. Straight into the frying pan.
But pike fishing, it's good. It's definitely a good way to practice. That was one of the good things about the challenge we done as well. It was we always kind of we all said like catch and release. But there's a question for you now. Have you, and I've spoke to another fella about this, there was awful stories going around for a long time that pike are destroying every other breed of fish in the rivers, I suppose, and lads were saying, you know, there won't be a trout left anywhere, and make sure when you catch them, fuck them out, like kill them and this, that and the other. And then apparently that has been proven completely false, that they are actually a good way of cleaning the river. You know,
the biodiversity in the river.
They'll clean off the dead fish. Have you an opinion on that? Or
well, I suppose like I'm no expert on that, so it'll just be my own opinion on it. But you know, I would see the pike as a very important part of the habitat and the natural ecosystem of the rivers and the canals. No more than yourselves, like when you go out shooting, you know, you're kind of reducing the numbers of your extra deer and whatever. The pike are there to reduce the extra unhealthy fish, the dying fish. They have an important role there as well to keep down disease levels, I suppose. Again, this is only my own opinion. But no, I would see them as a vital part of the ecosystem. And you know, when you catch a really, like I caught a nice big pike there from the canal, and a man came along the canal. He said, "What are you going to do with him now? Are you going to bring him home with you?" Well, I said no, because this pike has a very important role. It's going to be, eating a lot of the unhealthy fish in the canal area, and B, it's going to be there for reproduction as well.
Yeah,
and that's really important within the river and canal.
Yeah. I've seen an article actually, and correct me on this now. I don't know whether you've seen it or not. Somewhere in the UK, they're talking about there's declining numbers of pike in some of the rivers and canals over there.
Are you serious?
I presume, I don't know, is it from overfishing or from people eat pike over? Is that common enough over here?
No.
Well, I wouldn't be aware of it, and I don't think I don't know if it's actually legal or not. I don't think it's legal to be taking pike from rivers and things like that.
Not sure.
I don't know.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that.
I've seen programs on cooking programs in the UK, so I know they do it.
Oh, they do. Yeah, sure. Pike pie was a real old country style traditional dish from the UK. Like it was, you've seen loads of people doing it now. It's very green. Have you seen it? The meat, like when it's
I wouldn't be into it.
I wouldn't do it either now, but it is very green looking. I think back then it was probably a force of it's what they had. Like do you know what I mean? It's kind of what they had. But I'd be all for fucking putting them back. Like there's no.
But
need
in your
to
experience, no numbers over here at reasonably healthy levels. Anyway, you're not seeing any kind of issues.
Look, from looking at the reports online, as I say, like I don't fish the lakes too often, but I can see some nice fish being caught in the lakes. The likes of Loch Derivara there, Loch Derrig, I believe, good numbers of pike in there.
Yes.
Canals, I would say the numbers have declined over the years. Whether that be from people taking them, and that does happen. I have in years past found the head and the spine of a fish left on the canal bank. The fillets were taken of a really, really good sized pike. And I would have seen that more in years past, not so much now. But probably not as many pike in the canal as there used to be, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Otters.
Yeah, I've seen otters, and I had the unfortunate event one time of actually hooking up with an otter when I was out pike fishing. Thank God the hook came back out of him. I was just at a canal, cast in at what I thought was a lovely looking feature. There was a big splash, and I thought, Jesus, that's a great pike there.
Yeah.
No, it came up and it was an otter, and I just thought, no.
Stomach dropped.
It dropped completely, yeah. But thank God the hook pulled out, and I hope that the otter got away, without too much of an injury.
Yeah.
Just when I saw it. But yeah, they're around. I definitely have seen otters in the canal.
You've seen one actually when you were out pike fishing.
Yeah, when we were doing the challenge that time, I saw one. I couldn't believe it. It was just like, of course, we were fishing. That was at fucking 2:00 in the morning because we hadn't had any luck. So, I had the head torch on. That was what it was. I had the head torch on. I was kind of looking at me float, and I could see something now with the corner of my eye. Like I could see eyes, And I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And sure as eggs. And it was kind of one area of this canal where it was kind of sort of a bit wider. And he just made his way up onto kind of marsh. Yeah, it was huge.
Guys, silly question here. What would you do if you hooked one? Because I'm pretty sure they'd be fairly. Yeah. They're a vigorous enough little animal. I would imagine.
Try and get it out. The only thing is, I suppose the good part about an otter is, it's not like a fucking fish. You're under pressure to get him back in the water. An otter, if you can't manage it, you can
bring him to the vet or something.
Yeah.
Well, thank God the hook. It wasn't in his mouth the time that I caught him. It was I could just see it just at the top of his leg, and it must have been just very, very lightly hooked. Thank God.
Yeah,
that would be a nightmare.
Yeah. Although he has a cool story to tell all his otter friends, though. Oh, that Scar. Well, actually, I'm glad you asked me about that Scar.
The Rambo of otters.
I fought him off, so I did. Yeah. I want to ask as well. Look, we would have started off, myself and for those who don't know, myself and Noel are good pals all our lives, and we would have started off obviously doing a lot of canal fishing, course fishing. And actually, interesting enough, now that when I think back, I always remember like myself and Noel and your father, and we would have spent a whole summer on the canal, wouldn't we? Have like every evening we were on the canal after
teaching the worms how to fish,
swim, and
swim.
Well, we would have spent hours. Like we would have spent all day there. And I always remember you. I remember once you took a canary and you were there. No, I'm going deadbait. Yeah. And this was new to me and your dad. And we were like, "What the fuck is this like?" And you were just, "No, this is what you want to do. You were kind of, it was the pike you were after." And that was at a very young age.
Yeah.
You were.
I wanted the bigger fish, Brendan.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I wanted to say to you, Brendan, what are you wasting your time for those little lads?
Exactly.
I just wanted to catch the pike. There was just something about the predator fish coming up and hitting the bait or coming up and taking that dead fish.
Yeah.
I just wanted that predatory fish.
Yeah.
And I can remember one of the earliest pike that I caught, and myself and my dad were there, and we didn't know how to handle it properly.
Yeah.
And, the advice I would give to anybody now who's going pike fishing is go with someone who knows how to handle a pike.
Yeah.
I didn't follow that advice as a young fella. Myself and my dad were there, and we caught this pike. I'd estimate it probably to be around 8 or 9 pound. And to us,
good size pike too.
But to us now, this was a massive fish because we hadn't seen much other than the small little few roach we had, maybe a perch.
Yeah.
So in the end up, actually, we actually had to use a towel on his head to hold him, and then we got the hooks out and released him safely. Thank God.
Yeah.
But you definitely, if you're heading out now, I'd recommend go with someone who knows what they're doing. I should have followed my own advice when I was young for that. I didn't, but it still worked out okay. But you're right, Brennan. I just took it in my head one day to go to pike fishing, and loved it from that moment on.
I always remember you with the rig and the big float, and I can remember that clearly. And you were fishing kind of away from us, and me and your dad.
That's Brendan. That's just because you smelled.
Handy for tracking the old pike and all the same. And come here, so do you ever fish for food, or is it predominantly predator fish you're after?
No, I never fish for food, I'll be honest with you. Okay. I just fish. If I catch a nice pike, I'll weigh it, I'll take a picture and put it back in. Yep. That's my main thing. Like I mainly fish for two types of fish. That's pike and some perch fishing as well. I just love that predatory instinct of the pike and perch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's predominantly them two fish you stick to.
Perch wise, what's a big perch nowadays? Like I remember when we used to catch perch, but we'd still be catching them on maggots or sweet corn or something like that. But they were small, but would you get a 1 pound perch?
Oh God, yeah. No, look at. I was only looking at some perch that were caught there last night on another fella's page. So perch, you can go by length and you can go by weight. So by length, I think a specimen perch in a river is just over 40 centimeters. 40 centimeters. Now you will get them to 40 centimeters in the canal also, and then by weight, you'd be like a lovely perch of 2 pound, 3 pound, 4 pound perch as well. It would be a nice one
in a canal.
No, you're probably looking towards the rivers for those bigger fish. But that's the thing about fishing in canals as well, Brendan.
Yeah.
I love catching a fish where you're not supposed to catch it. You're not supposed to catch this big fish, this big pike in the canal, and yet when he comes up and hits the bait, it's something extraordinary. You have it.
Yes.
But going back to the perch, your perch in or around 30 to 40 centimeters is a really good size perch, and maybe 2 to 3 pound. That's a really good fish,
And spinning, would you be spinning for them?
You'd be catching them. Some of them are caught on spinners. Some of them are caught on very small. Well, I say very small, maybe 3-inch little baits. On a jig head, and then some of them are caught in worms as well. Just depends on what way you like to fish it. But right now at this moment is a great time for fishing for perch in the rivers. If you get the right conditions, absolutely. Lovely perch out there.
Right.
The biggest thing I've spotted now, the line obviously is very important, because I'm going to be getting caught in reeds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As a beginner, fairly often, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So a good line is going to help me no end, because I'm going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forever. So, and the lure game, Rob has got me, I think I brought in some of the lures.
Yeah, you can fuck all them out.
I'll let you tell him that. But how to play them, I think is more, is that you could have a 30 pound lure, I think. Is that what, and I could be stand corrected, but if you're not fishing it properly, you might as well have nothing at the end of the line.
Look, you can get lucky. You can put your lure into the water, retrieve it straight, and you will have a fish on it. But you will increase your hit rates if you fish it with a little bit more, I suppose, finesse, is it? Where you can stop it, start it, give it a little short flick of the rod tip. Anything that makes it look like a dying fish that's not following a particular pattern, something that looks different in the water from the rest. Okay. That's basically what you're going to be doing.
And I've noticed Norman Mulvaney, a good friend of the show, I've seen some of his new lures and stuff. I think he has a bit of
he has a fetish for lures. He does. He has thousands. Yeah. He even House of Lures. You ever see that House of Lures? Like some of them could be 80 quid each.
Wow.
Yeah. Now they're pieces of art. You know what I mean? But I've never seen Norman's selection. He's those. I see those boxes. He must have definitely he has to have 50 of those.
Yeah.
Full, yeah. But he does guides and stuff like that. He's big into it, yeah.
Yeah, so you can spend the
sky's the limit.
The mortgage on it.
Yeah, you can go for your expensive.
I'm not saying you did, Noel.
Oh, no.
As I'm counting.
Yeah.
Ruth will have the suitcase.
No, Jesus, no.
Yeah. But like as we say, I suppose it's definitely one of those things you can do it on the cheap, I suppose too, can't you? You know, for a beginner.
Can't wait to get going at it. Can't wait to get going at it.
Yeah.
You can definitely do it for that bit cheaper, Brendan. Like, you know, you could have your €50 on your rod. Mm-hmm. You could spend 30 or 40 euros on your reel.
Yeah.
Your line, you can get it there. Your braided line, you can get a fairly decent one for €20,
yep.
€25. Mm-hmm. And then your set of traces, then you're probably looking at about €8 or €9, €10 for that.
Yes.
And then a few lures. You don't need many when you're starting out.
No.
You know, something I'd say to someone, have a range of sizes. So have your smaller lures, maybe up to 10 centimeters. Have maybe 3 or 4 of them between 10 and 15 centimeters. And really, you don't need to be going too much bigger than that when you're starting out.
No,
exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just see what you get. And at the end of the day, when you're starting out, it's about getting numbers of pike. If you're going out with massive lures, you're probably not going to get the numbers of pike. You're going to be you're reducing your chances to just going to those larger pike that are going to hit.
Absolutely, yeah.
So get used to handling your pike. Catch the numbers, practice unhooking them, things like that.
Yes.
If you're going out dead baiting, definitely go with someone that has experience in it, experience unhooking. Yeah. And actually, just going back to the dead baiting, just one thing I thought of earlier on. When your dead bait is on the bottom, let's say, and you're just reeling in to have a recast.
Yes.
A useful little tip. Reel it in quite slowly. And even just let it flutter for a second, because again, a pike can lie there looking at your bait as it sits on the bottom. Reel it in slowly, and only recently I had my bait just in at the canal's edge when there was a massive swirl on it. Obviously, a pike had been sitting watching the bait as it sat there doing nothing, followed it in, swirled on the bait. He missed it, and I got the fright of my life. I dropped the rod. I said, Jesus Christ! I dropped the rod, and before that bait had fluttered back down to the bottom, the pike had hit it again, and he was away with it. And then my net was about 20 meters up the bank of the run and get that. And then so just little tip, just reel it in slowly, because you will catch pike that are just sitting there looking at your bait. The odd time. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the huge thing, I think we spoke briefly just before we came on air here, I think the whole another benefit to all of this is the mental side of it, you know, getting out and about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's a huge thing, especially, I'm not saying it's predominantly for men, but I think it's a big issue with, especially young men now. You know, there's despite what people say, I think there's an epidemic of, you know, mental health issues across, because a lot of this knowledge that you're thankfully sharing with us here hasn't been, you know, taken up by the next generation, and they won't get to experience a lot of this, you know.
Well, even going back to what myself and Brendan were talking about, going out to the river as a child and getting your pinkians and your minnows.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's happening these days. The children, I think,
sad.
You know, and without going too much into it, they're kind of on their phones and stuff like that. It's kind of lost. But you're right, Anthony. Like, getting out into that fresh air, there's something special about it. And some of my best days fishing would have been on a day where I didn't actually catch a fish. You just get out and you just kind of lose yourself in it, and you lose track of time, and it's just you're just out there, and you're just I suppose you're not thinking about anything else. You're just in the flow, I suppose.
We'd
Absolutely.
say some of our best days hunting this year have come back, shot nothing. You know, we've seen some of the most spectacular scenery in the country. We've seen. You get out in the morning and the sun is shining, and then there's a bit of rain, and then there's the glistening off the header. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you know, and being able to get a bit of fresh air in your lungs, you know.
We need to have more.
Even like when you're out fishing, like, I don't know if it happens when you're out shooting, but people walk along and have a chat with you. Like, you know, and you'd stop and they'd ask you, what are you fishing for? And you tell them, like, I'm hoping for a pike or a perch or that, and they say, geez, are they in there? I didn't think they'd be in there. And you might have a quick chat with them, and you go back to your fishing, and someone else comes along, and then it's time for a sandwich and a cup of tea, and you whip out the tin foil.
And you know something? It's the nicest sandwich and the nicest cup of tea.
I was just going to say that, isn't it?
Man,
the cup of tea and the sandwich that you have outside,
you can't
regardless of the weather, it's, you know,
it's lovely. It's absolutely the last fucking word. So it is. Remember we used to bring packets of soup and fucking
the whole shebang, Brendan. Like, you know, the hang sandwiches.
Hang sandwiches.
No, definitely. You know, like the lovely cup of tea and sandwich in the fresh air.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, definitely. And we were kind of spot on our earlier podcast, like, you know, around November, and I think we'd like to do something now, maybe this November. I know, Noel, you're a big advocate for it as well. We might try and organise something in November for Men's Health Month and get lads out and for their mental health as well as everything else. You know, there's some massive benefits to it, as the fella says. Fishing, coarse fishing. Do you bother with it anymore? Like roach, bream? Not really.
Not really, Brendan.
No,
no, I don't. No. I do, as I say, just a bit of pike.
Yeah.
A good bit of pike and some perch. That'd be the height of it.
How many times a week then, Noel, would you head out, or a month?
Jesus, depends how many times am I allowed. I don't know. No, I'd say, look, at most weekends I'd try to get out with the lures. If anything, you know, you might need a little bit more time if you're going out with your dead bait, whereas you can go out with your lures there for an hour or 2 hours if you have it free, and just, as I say, you might catch a fish, you might not, but I try to get out most weekends this time of the year if I can for a few hours. Yeah. Kind of then over the summer it's great. Your long evenings and you get out there for your perch. All you do.
Hold on now, your long evens. You fucking 3 months off in the summer. You don't need to worry.
We're down to the teacher debate, are we?
You don't need to worry about long evens, lad.
Anyway, the long.
He's just jealous because he didn't listen in school. That's all I was wrong there.
As soon as I finish correcting those papers, I get outside with the perch rod, and that's so easy to get out with because you just got your small light rod, your light setup, your small little lures. Again, you're bringing a small box with you. What I like to do is I just like to go off on my bicycle. I take the bike out of the shed, I'm away down the canal bank, and I just head off to a spot and I just fish there. You know, again, my fishing is all about moving, so I move between the spots the whole way along. And in an evening there along the canal, because I live close to the canal, along the canal you could pick up to 30 perch there in an evening, in a nice evening. You could. I'll tell you, one of my best evenings fishing, it was actually my wife's from Galway, and there's a lake nearby her house, and so I just went out there not knowing if there was perch in it or not, so I just went out to the edge of it, and Jesus, just started to get hits, and by that evening I had 178 perch caught.
What?
Now that, I don't know if that's a lot, because I don't perch fish too often. Because
I'm guessing that's a lot.
But there might be other lads out there who are catching that, the whole time. But to me, it was such a good evening. So I had 178 the night before, and I came home and I said to her, I might go again in the morning. So I had another 110 the following morning, and 2 small little jack pike, and all that was just standing in with a set of waders into the edge of the lake, and I obviously had found the shoal and where they were and whatever, and some lovely big perch caught in that again. But just constant hits. Actually, now I think I had something like, it was a bit crazy to be honest with you. I think it was 14 perch in a row without missing on a cast. It was crazy stuff. I've never experienced it since. No, but it was to
obviously go around in shoals then.
Perch or shoal fish. When you get one perch hit, you can hopefully be prepared for more perch hits after that. Yeah, absolutely.
And is that in Canada? Is that across the board, or is that just
they are a shoal fish across the board? Yeah. So if you find the perch, hopefully you're going to get more than one. You're going to get a couple of them there. Or 178 if you're lucky.
How do you even count that?
I tell you,
the teacher, Brendan.
the old teacher coming back to the course. Yeah.
Oh, pure luck so it was. Yeah.
178, man. That is absolutely fucking
incredible. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, some of them were absolutely tiny tiddlers.
Were they?
They were absolutely, but every one of them counted.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A fish is a fucking fish.
Yeah.
Plans going forward? Is there any aspect of you'd like to break into?
Well, continue with the pike fishing, Brendan, and I suppose one of the things you just want to do is you want to keep catching pike, want to keep the numbers up, and also I suppose you're always aiming to catch that bigger pike. So 18 pound is the mark I have to beat now.
Okay.
So someday I'm hoping for that 20 pounder.
Yeah.
It might be in a canal, it might be in a river, I don't know, but I am hopeful that it will come at some stage.
Lakes, out of the question. You want to?
It's just not for me. I could fish. I wouldn't be a huge lover of boats. I'll be honest with you. I know you have the Emerald Lady there, and
don't be rolling down the boat.
She's looking beautiful, I have to say. I noticed how
there might be a bit of water inside.
you didn't take my name suggestions, all right?
What was your I can't even remember.
Jeez, I can't remember.
Oh, yes, you can remember. This is safe place. You can say
if I think of it, I'll say it to you.
Some of them were fucking hilarious. My God.
But no, I generally I'd be sticking to the canals and around little rivers. They're local enough to me. They're handy to get to, and when you don't have a huge amount of time, it's just handy to get out there and get going straight away. Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. Yeah, look, we obviously we do a lot of hunting, so the boat will be kind of for the ducks as well as the pike and trout.
And there's do you know the way like hunters do a lot for in terms of, is there anything fishermen can do for conservation in terms of I know obviously you guys pay your fishing licenses and all that kind of stuff, which will contribute towards the upkeep of the canals and rivers and all that kind of stuff. But is there anything that fishermen do in general that can help?
Yeah, well, I suppose for the likes of canals and that, you don't need to pay anything. Anyone can fish the canals. Okay. But I suppose just taking care of the fish when you take them out, first of all, good practices, good methods, releasing the fish. You're not damaging the ecosystem. And as well as that, I was talking to you earlier and saying that, sometimes people come along the canal and they talk to you, they don't realise what's in the canal. So we're actually making people aware of what's in there. They might be a little bit more encouraged to look after that canal and
not throw the rubbish.
Exactly. Yeah. Some people, they just can't believe some of the fish they're in. Like some of the pike there, if it's a 6 or 7 pound pike in the canal, they're absolutely flabbergasted that there's fish even that size in it.
Yeah,
so it's not really well documented, not well known amongst a lot of people that there are big fish in there.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at it. I know I'm going backwards here, but again, like a pike will take a mouse or a rat in the water. So. Which is, essentially they're doing
the world of good.
You know what I mean? And they're cleaning up the dead fish. They're eating the stuff at the bottom, but they're also keeping, I presume, decent numbers of these little guys
down.
Absolutely. No, they're well able for their rats, and look, a good sized pike will even take a small duckling. I don't know how to say that.
You said you have one of those actually.
I have one, but I don't generally use it.
Don't generally use it. Okay.
I don't have the where I fish. I don't think there's pike to that size that will take your duckling.
Yeah. I've seen some of them down in Loch Derg, and they're like touching 40 pound, they're massive,
massive pike,
unfucking believable. I don't know what depths they're fishing at. I wouldn't have a clue, but
I'd have a heart attack. 40 pound fish.
That is
you can't see. You don't know what. I suppose
that's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty. You don't know until you.
You see the bend in the rod, and then you're like, Jesus, I'm into something major here.
Yeah, and you always do though. The minute you're geez, this is massive, and then you go, oh, actually, it mightn't be.
we were talking to a taxidermist, obviously in the last couple of episodes, Andy Fox. Would you ever consider, if you did land that big pike, getting one done?
Oh, never. No. Because to me, to kill a pike or anything like that, I would never do it. No. To me, to see that fish swim away is much more satisfying than to see him sitting on my mantelpiece, dead, stuffed.
Yeah. Rue wouldn't let him, man.
Jesus. I'm my own man. I know.
It's a roundabout way.
It's definitely.
I asked, but she said no.
No, it's definitely about watching the fish swim away. It's as much about watching them swim away healthy as it is actually landing the fish and getting your photograph.
No, actually, I don't even know what I'm after proposing. Is that even legal? I don't know in terms of fishing, but
probably not.
Probably not. Well, then there'll be no disregard. Edit. Rewind.
Edit. I don't even know how to
died of natural causes. Heart attack. No. Definitely catch release the whole way is the way to go.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up, I know you used to do a bit of hunting. Have you ever any plans in the future of going back into a bit of hunting or?
As I was saying to you before we came on air, Brendan, I still have the shotgun under and over. I have a CZ rifle too as well. Used to do a good bit in the years past. As I said, my father was into shooting. My brother's still heavily into shooting. And has his rifle and his shotgun there and so on.
I was actually on Facebook the other day and I seen a picture up of 17 HMR, I think it was. Could be a Marlin, could be the same as mine.
It's Marlin,
Marlin, same as mine. And a good sized fox. And then I looked at the name and I was like, where do I know that name from? And it was
Wasn't it?
Yeah. But it's like good stuff.
So look,
yeah.
am I getting back into the shooting? Probably not anytime soon. I as I was saying to you, I still have the few bits and pieces there.
Yeah, but
maybe a bit of target shooting down the line. But for now, I'm very much focused on the fishing.
But you're not, as the fella says, anti-hunting.
Absolutely not.
No.
If you said to me tomorrow, you're coming out for a hunt, I'll gladly go with you and help you out in any way that I can. You can, but I've no way anti-shooting. It's just for me right now. As I say, I'm just focusing on the fishing, and who knows what will happen down the line. Maybe I'll dust the guns down.
Yeah, and look, you can see by what you brought here today. Like it is a rabbit hole you can go down.
It is,
and it's an art. You know, there's most definitely.
There's an awful lot more to it. And I suppose we should stress we're talking about going after 1-2 species of fish here. So that changes.
Oh, absolutely. There's like even talking about the 1 and 2 species of fish. What I've told you today, that's only the tip of the iceberg. Like another guy will have his own method, and someone else will be listening to this and he'll say, "No, I wouldn't do that. Now this is what I do." Everyone has their own way of doing it. And when you're going across then the varied species of fish, there are so many ways to catch fish. It's incredible. And there's so much that I don't know. There's so much I don't know about pike fishing as well. I'm always learning. Like that's it. Like it's a
that's the beauty. It's a constant evolution, is it? It's no different in hunting in that aspect.
No,
you're learning constantly. You're learning what way the fish is reacting. You're learning what the way they're behaving.
Yeah,
you're learning what way they're reacting to certain types of lures or not, or smells, or So and
it's cool. It is like fishing is like hunting. It's like probably like golf. Like we all love something shiny, don't we? Like it's kind of, isn't it? Like it's its own version of like boys' ties. You know, you like. I would be the same as you. Like I go into a fishing shop and you're just looking at the gear and the rods and reels, and you just want it all, you know. And every week, and then you'll buy a magazine, you'll flick, and you go, "Fucking."
Funny story. I just come home Tuesday night, absolutely shattered with him. You know, the two of us were now.
We spent 4 days all over Ireland hunting deer before the end of the season there. So
we trekked and fell and anyway. So I came home and I told the missus, I said, you know, oh Jesus, I said, I'm not sorry now that the season's, you know, there's a cross in the line and we can get a bit of a break before.
Yeah.
Sure, I wasn't. A day and back onto me voicemail. Right, lad, need to get ready for the...
exactly. The fucking trout are on, lad. Let's get going. It's like a disease. I must say, I mentioned, because a lot of people were asking as well on the previous podcast, we're talking about the part of Clare that we were, where it was where I nearly disappeared. Just a section of ground, man. It was like... so dangerous.
I've seen the pictures on Facebook. Some of them look class.
It was deadly, but the ground was, and I don't know, was I actually even telling you this, that the fella that gave us the permission, that my contact down there, I was talking to him, it must have been on Monday or Tuesday, and he says, "How did you get on?" And I says, "Sure, we did great whole time, you know, it was great, lovely country and all." And he says, "Where did you go?" And I says, "Oh, do you know, and you go up that road there, and you know that you pull in, and you know where there's a couple of bales." Yeah. And I says, "You know that, all that part?" Yeah, went in there. And he says, "You didn't fucking go in there, did you?" He says, "Yeah, man," the other lad, he says, "Your man said, work away, there's no bother." "Don't mind that, that's fucking mad." He said, "Jeez, you done well to come out with air." So apparently it's known.
And me and Bernie are not exactly built for, you know, we're not nimble.
No,
so
definitely.
If we go down with force.
We're not exactly cross-country fucking runners or anything. So, but it was gas. He was just like, he gave it a name. He says, he says, "You didn't fucking go in there, did you?" I says, "Yeah."
Sure, trust us. One fucking spot. A couple of 1,000 acres.
Sure, fuck it, we'll head across here. But
just to mention as well, we got in the post road pursuits.
Oh yes, 100%.
I haven't touched mine because I'm waiting for tonight.
Have you not?
No,
I've mine read front to back. Noel's heading home.
Just got a copy of it there now. So looking forward to it, Brendan. Thank you.
No problem at all, man. It's brilliant. I did urge anyone. It's available in nearly every angling and hunting shop in the country now. So go out and get it, and you'll enjoy it.
Just on that, lads. Right, this is like a huge amount of work went into that.
Yeah.
Sean McShawn, like a huge body of work. Absolutely. I think it's a dying. Well, it was a dying. Like I commented actually on one of the UK's posts the other day. They've nothing like, I think, Horse and Hound or something like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of, as you say, it's covered in ads and stuff like that. There's little to no ads in this.
No,
it's complete reading. From fishing to hunting and everything in between,
gamekeeping, flight,
phenomenal.
You know, it's
a real highlight of our sport. I think it's one of the things where, like we're in short supply, definitely in the hunting game, and I presume the fishing as well. Like what the people in these sports bring to the countryside, and in terms of tourism, like you look at the canals now, the walkways up and down the canals, like, and I'm pretty sure that's in no stretch, it's connected to the anglers and the walkers and the site. You know what I'm saying? So that's all part of it. So please support Sean. It's a couple of quid, and I think. It's a couple of quid well spent. You get value, plenty of value for it.
Absolutely. The man's not making a he's covering his expenses, and it's something that he's passionate about. So So I suppose we'll wrap it up on that note. I've held you for long enough, and Noel, thanks an absolute million.
Thanks very much for having me in. It was a pleasure, Brendan and Anthony. Yeah, good to be here.
Held us up. He's going off for a grub and beer.
Absolutely.
Get fucking rid of us. Held us up. I'm sorry, that's it. Will you politely get the fuck out of here?
That is absolutely not what fucking fits us.
When you're out there, will you tax that car, for God's sake? How long is it out now?
I will if you put tyres on yours. No, honestly, legit, thanks an absolute million for coming on.
No, it was a pleasure.
And look, it was a world of knowledge, and we'll have you on again.
We'll definitely have you on again if you're glad to come on. We're going to give it a couple of weeks, and we're going to do a bit of fishing, and then we might tee up again and liaise.
Absolutely, and
tell you what we found and discuss, and send us in any pictures, because we'd a load of people asking us about, when we put up that picture, they were all kind of commenting on it, like, who the fuck, where the name is just same story in the canal. Didn't think there was anything like that, and we only got a message this morning. I won't read it out, but like some of the message, we got a really nice message this morning from a fella, basically saying that he says, he was kind of saying, he says the podcast should come with a bit of a warning. He says, because since I started listening, it just gets kind of the creative juices. He said, I've never done as much fucking hunting in all my life. He says, I'm out every day. He says, just trying different things. So that makes it all worthwhile, as I say. That's
hopefully this will encourage the next generation to pick up the rod.
100%, without a shadow of a doubt. Get out and give it a go. Okay, 100% on that. Hope you all enjoyed, and we'll talk to you next week.
Over and out, guys.
Thanks, Brendan.
Cheers, man.
Thanks, Anthony.